Right, I'm Bob Cuffill, and I am the chairman of the Black Pill Local History Society. I've been asked to provide some information about the Mumbles Railway, which used to run past the Vivian Hall in Black Pill, in fact only 10 yards from where I'm sitting now. The Act of Parliament was passed in 1804. The track then was started to be laid in 1805, and in 1807 it carried the first passengers. And the man who was behind it all was a local landowner, John Morris, and he was the man who put the most money in to the what was called the Swansea Railway and Tramway Company. So it had various impacts at various times, but I think the greatest impact was its popularity for carrying passengers. It basically was a major tourist attraction, and that led to Mumbles being one of the premier tourist resorts in the whole of Wales. And in its heyday, at the turn of the 19th century, up until the 1940s, it was carrying tens of thousands of people a day, and Mumbles then became far more accessible. It comprised a single horse and a single carriage, which had about 12 people on it. Now, this has always been a big point of argument in the railway world, because what was the first railway in the world? The correct answer, it is the Mumbles Railway. So that was its first iteration, and it used horse-drawn propulsion right through until 1896. Although steam was introduced in 1877. Steam carried through till 1929, when the company then operating the lease decided to introduce electricity. And from 1929 through to 1960, it was overhead electric wires which operated the railway. Even though the Mumbles Railway pulled as an electric railway, was very popular and was pulling in hundreds of thousands of passengers a year, even up to the late 1940s, it was seen that buses were a more efficient, more comfortable, more frequent means of transport. Roads had improved. Major changes were made to the Mumbles Road in the 1930s, making it more suitable for the massive increase in car traffic, as well as people could start to begin to afford them. When the bus operators decided in 1958 to apply to Parliament to close down the Mumbles Railway. This caused a huge amount of local protest by people who saw it as taking away one of their items of heritage, and the Act eventually passed in 1959, and the Mumbles Railway finally closed on the 4th of January 1960. So the answer to will it return in its existing form as a tracked railway, I cannot see that being very likely at all. However, the Mumbles Development Trust has only this month come up with a major plan to mark the route of the railway. Oh, and they will have a little museum at the pier end with memorabilia from the Mumbles Railway. It's just a great shame, really, that it closed when it did, because it closed before people valued their heritage. And as such, when it was lost for purely commercial reasons. closed down by the bus company, not supported by the council, and allowed to disappear. That wouldn't happen, I suspect, these days, and that would have made all the difference.